Welcome. Look, if there's literally one thing we all share, regardless of who we are or where we come from, it's the absolutely messy, unavoidable reality of human relationships. We bump into each other, we misunderstand each other, and yeah, sometimes we deeply hurt each other. Today, we're looking at a totally fascinating source document that tackles this head-on. It serves as a practical training manual specifically for Christians looking to resolve modern disputes. So consider this explainer your personal guide to taking those very real conflicts in our lives and transforming them through a radical approach to grace and diplomacy.
Okay, let's dive into this outline. We'll be covering the reality of enmity, the ambassador's calling, moving beyond abstract love, steps to active reconciliation, and finally, the hard work of forgiveness.
Section 1. The reality of enmity. Now, the source points out something we all know. Conflict has existed in the church since its early days, and it is just everywhere today. We've got to acknowledge this reality before we can even begin to fix it. So, to understand the problem, we need to define our terms. The source uses a very specific word here, enmity. This isn't just, some minor disagreement over who left the break room coffee pot empty. No, it's defined as mutual hostility, an ongoing state of deep-seated conflict or a rift. The author frames this as a state of separation, separating us from our Creator and separating us from each other. Honestly, imagine two entirely different nations locked in a bitter, ongoing dispute. That is the baseline state of enmity the text describes.
Moving on to Section 2, the ambassador's calling.
So, the source text completely shifts our perspective here using a foundational passage, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, specifically verses 16 through 20. We are therefore Christ's ambassadors. The author paints this super vivid picture of two nations, one ruled by King Jesus, and the other, well, a hostile world completely dominated by conflict. Jesus, in this framework, leaves his kingdom to do diplomatic work in this hostile world. And the crazy thing is, when he leaves, he doesn't just abandon the mission, he leaves his representatives. That's us, as ambassadors, to continue that exact diplomatic work. And remember, an ambassador doesn't represent their own interests, right? They represent the sovereign who sent them.
And doing that diplomatic work, it requires a massive perspective shift. The source notes that realizing our own flaws and the radical grace we actually received literally compels us to change our worldly perspective. The logic here is just bulletproof. If Christ could love flawed me, then flawed me can love another flawed person. Actually, scratch that, it's more than logic. It's a mandate. When we truly grasp that we were once enemies who were shown totally unearned grace, our pride and self-righteousness are just stripped away. We simply can no longer look at our neighbor or our enemy through a lens of condemnation.
All right, Section 3, moving beyond abstract love.
This part is absolutely crucial. The text makes a really sharp contrast between how modern society views love and the radical call of a true ambassador, and this brilliantly illustrates the difference. Over on the left, we have what the author calls the thoughts and prayers culture. You know this one. It's an abstract, super comfortable view of love. It's when something bad happens and we just say, oh, I'll remember to pray for you, but it fundamentally avoids actually touching the messy situation. It keeps our hands perfectly clean. On the right, though, we have Christ's compelling love. This is active. The source gives this incredible example of Zacchaeus, a famously corrupt tax collector completely shunned by society. Jesus didn't send him thoughts and prayers from afar. No way. He went to his house, engaged him directly, and the result was Zacchaeus making active restitution for his wrongs. True ambassador love is gonna get his hands dirty.
Section 4. Steps to active reconciliation. Okay, the source document actually pauses right here and asks its audience to pull out a piece of paper and a pencil. So, let's do that now. Answer this honestly in your head. Who are you currently in enmity with? The author asks a highly specific, very relatable question here. Who is that person that when you just hear their name makes you roll your eyes and literally push up your mouth? You know exactly the physical reaction they're talking about, don't you? Think of that person right now. Put a name to them on your paper.
Because conflict hides in all sorts of relational categories, the text urges us to examine these specific areas. Is it your relationship with God? Is it a sibling you literally don't talk to anymore? Or maybe someone at your church who really hurt you by their inaction? Maybe it's a boss who is always on your case, or a neighbor you simply cannot stand. It could be a spouse, or profoundly, it could even be yourself. Find the category, find the name, and just hold it in your mind.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because here are the concrete steps derived from the text to actually move from mutual hostility to active reconciliation. Step 1, identify the strained relationship. We just did that. Step 2, bring the conflict before God. Step 3, allow Christ's love to cover the offense. Now, this means replacing your natural human frustration with the diplomatic grace we discussed earlier. And step 4, seek and offer forgiveness. This is the active, physical step of the ambassador. It's where the rubber meets the road.
Which brings us to Section 5, the hard work of forgiveness.
The source document is really careful to ground our expectations here. Because let's face it, this diplomatic work isn't some fairy tale, but the ultimate goal is crystal clear: reconciliation. It's about restoring connection. The author beautifully describes this as the vertical and horizontal lines of a cross. Think about it. The vertical line represents restoring our relationship with God, and the horizontal line represents restoring our relationship with our community. As agents of reconciliation, our job is to help repair both of these fractured lines.
And the author states it plainly. This work isn't pretty, and it sure isn't easy. Reconciliation doesn't always mean you're going to suddenly become best friends with the person who hurt you. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect or that the harm never actually occurred. What it does mean is that you are choosing to let Christ's love, and not your anger, not your resentment or your frustration, direct your engagement. It means stepping back and letting grace soothe and heal the wounds.
So what does this all mean for us? We've covered the reality of enmity, the high calling of the ambassador, and the hard, practical steps of bringing grace into our most difficult relationships. I want to leave you with the ultimate challenge derived from this really powerful text. Will you let Christ's love or your frustration direct how you engage with your enemies today? The manual has been laid out. The diplomatic mission is absolutely yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I seriously challenge you to put that paper and pencil exercise to work today.